Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Fierce and Flowing podcast. And if you keep coming back and listening to these amazing conversations, I am so grateful to you. And thank you, thank you, thank you for all of the support and all of the light that you are sending our way. Today is like any other day because every time that I have a podcast, I say that I'm so excited for my guest, and it's the same. So in front of me, we have Bridgette Simmonds, and Bridgette is the founder of Bridgette Simmonds International. She's also a Wall Street Journal featured top 15 coach in Tampa Bay, Florida. And she's spent over a decade empowering leaders to elevate their leadership, transform their passion into profit, which we're going to talk about today, and achieve extraordinary success. Bridgette, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you, Monique.
I'm so excited too. I mean, we were in person close to almost a year ago talking about the year ahead for you. And which, we call it the leadership year in the system that I use. And I was joking with Bridgette. So those of you who are actually watching and can see our backgrounds, I told Bridgette, this year for you is a leadership year. And symbolically, it's the element of metal and the color of white, right? Because this science is based in feng shui astrology. And when I see her background, I'm like, girl, you are owning your leadership year.
Yes, I am. I got all into
I
it.
love it. I love it. And hopefully you feel it, right? Because a lot of people ask me, well, what does the color have to do with it? I'm like, color has everything to do with it. It's resonance, right? And we can feel this, unconsciously, but a simple way to look at it is when you are in a room full of people with black suits and blue suits, and someone with a beautiful red blouse or jacket walks in with red lipstick. I mean, what do you feel? Right.
Yeah.
And that just proves that color is extremely powerful and can change our energy, can change the environment that we're in. So in feng shui, color is, very important. Um,
Absolutely.
so Bridgette, tell us what you've been up to. Like what, aside from the way that I introduced you, like what's happening in your life? What are you excited about right now?
I'm excited about so many things. It's fascinating too when the system that we work with, and I adore that grounding conversation we have every year. This is year two that I've done it, and it's it serves me so powerfully because even with me being in a leadership year, what I'm so excited about is how much in leadership I feel of my life and my business
Yeah.
more than I have in the past, I don't know, decade. I've been an entrepreneur and have had my own business now for 11 years,
Wow.
and this is the first year I feel this sense of order and direction. I can
Mhm.
even see it and feel it with my team, that we feel so clear about what we're creating, how we're creating it. I'm for the first time on top of the things that I need to do so that they can do what they need to do. Whereas before I was just kind of a bit scattered or not sure, or I kept changing things and
Right.
recreating things. And now it's like I feel like there's a level of clarity, and not only in my business life and my professional life, but also in my personal life as
Yeah.
well. And I'm so excited about that level of clarity and specificity. And it's not as though everything is necessarily coming at me in this moment, but I feel as prepared and as settled in that space of what's happening than ever before. It's amazing.
I love to hear that. I literally got chills and because I sense it from you, right? Even without your words, it's like I can feel the presence of leadership, and sometimes I call it the sage on the mountain, right? It's that kind of end of life type of energy where we're wise. We kind of know what the answers are. We don't need to do a lot. We can be super focused on what is going to bring us joy, what's going to bring us meaning and success, and we can take all of those learnings that we've had in our life and kind of just like simplify them and go, oh yeah, like that's the answer, right?
That's it.
And it's such a beautiful energy. So I'm so happy to hear that. And so, I never do this, and I should because this is what I do for a living, the astrology and the tarot and guiding leaders using all of that wisdom. And I said, today because it is the full moon and the eclipse this evening, and we're talking during this beautiful energy, I said, you know what? I feel like pulling a couple cards for our conversation,
Yes.
knowing that the um the significance of the cards definitely would speak to you and I, Bridget, but also to anyone who's listening who may be seeking some guidance. Because what I know for sure is that the energy of this eclipse can be very emotional. I know for me, I'm a Pisces, I cry all the time, but these last couple days, it has been such a release. I've cried in ways that I haven't cried in a long time, but the sense of relief that I felt after was
Mm,
so healing, you know. And this morning I did a healing, you know, tea ceremony with the women in my mastermind, again, to allow us the space to clear
mm,
our energy, clear our thoughts, clear any gunk that's in there so that we can move forward with that kind of guidance that you were talking about, right? Like, I know what I'm doing, I know where I'm going, and I've got the clarity.
mhm.
So, interestingly enough, I shuffled the deck and I wasn't even ready to pull, but a card fell out and my gut was like, pick it up, pick up the card. And then my gut was like, now look under the deck. So, we've got number 5, closing doors, completion,
Wow.
which if you listen to my video about this full moon and this eclipse, which is on YouTube, I'll put a link in the show notes. Full moons are about completion, right? In
Mm,
small ways, but also in big ways with the eclipse. So we're closing doors so that we can open new doors. And then to kind of just like put a stamp on it, bottom of the deck, 55. So we've got 555. So for those of you who follow numerology, pay attention to 555. Um, and the father gate, by the way, and you may remember this or not, the leadership energy, the archetype of it is the father. Okay, so
ooh, I
we've
didn't
got the
know.
father gate, bold step forward. So I wanted to ask you, you know, how you're feeling this eclipse, what doors are closing, what gates are opening for you, because then I'm going to blow your mind when I talk to you about what showed up in your astrological chart.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. That's just so appropriate. And I've been feeling very emotional the last couple of days too. Just the sense of like melancholy, which
Yeah,
probably goes along with like closed doors and no particular specific reason.
right,
Just feeling like, okay, I'm here. I'm to myself and I'm here. And so I feel as though it's an interesting space when you want a certain thing or you desire a space to occupy in your life, and it's ahead of you and it's present and it's what is, and you want to cling to what you've known. So
yeah,
I feel I'm exiting and closing the door on this level of obscurity that I've really felt so comfortable being in the last couple of years, that I have felt and always have felt this, that there's a level of bigness to my life that I'm called to be, not because I desire any type of celebrity or any type, like I
yeah,
don't need it. And yet I also am not lost on my level of leadership and the influence that I have on people when I'm not, really not trying. I
right,
just have a lot that I love to share, and I love for people to feel elevated in their own bigness, whatever
yeah,
that means for them.
right,
And so I feel as though the door that I'm kicking in and the area that I'm stepping into, not without kicking and screaming and fighting a little bit for staying obscure and as small as I'd like to, but is that level of my being that I'm supposed to really occupy, that I know I'm supposed to, part of me wants to, but part of me doesn't.
yeah.
But that's it. I'm here, and that's what I
Yes.
feel is calling
Stepping
me.
in boldly.
Yeah.
Yeah, stepping in boldly. You know, what I love about astrology, it's one of the reasons why I use it as a tool in my work with primarily on women in entrepreneurship, women in the corporate world who want to feel like they're living a sacred life, right? Like what I'm doing is meaningful, what I'm doing is aligned with my purpose, with my spiritual intention. And And one of the things that I've noticed is that it's very difficult for women to take that step and not step into their boldness, not step into their voice, the
Mhm.
bigness that they're here to occupy. I do feel that this era that we're coming into now with all of these huge astrological shifts, call it the Aquarian age, call it whatever you want. It's a rising up of women. It's a rising up of us feeling comfortable in our own skin, knowing what our gifts are so that we do have that clarity, right? So that we're not confused by what everyone's doing in the market, what everyone else is doing. It's no, it's like, what am I here to do? Right? Because I'm a unique spark of God and I have my own mission. And so sometimes that can really prevent us from being successful in our calling. But for you, my dear, like, and I don't say this to everybody because some people are not here to be big in the sense of external community out in the world. But you are. I mean, you are a sun Sag, and your Mercury is also in Sag, your Mars is in Sag, your Neptune is in Sag. For those of you who know about Sagittarius energy, it is the bigness of life. It is. It's the bigness of everything. And part of that is being bold, saying things that are going to be uncomfortable to others, and you may not be for everybody, but because you put yourself out there so boldly, you are going to be for a lot of people and they're going to find you because of that voice, right? And stepping into your bigness. So, hey, I'm here to give you permission. And I know you don't need it because you have already kind of come into that awareness, for yourself. Um, with that, I want to share because this doesn't always happen. So, um, the eclipse, right? The eclipse happens when the full moon and with the moon and the sun align with the north and south node. Okay, this specific eclipse is a partial eclipse because the nodes are still in Aries and Libra, right? So we're
Mhm.
still dealing with the lessons, the karmic lessons that Aries and Libra bring us. Okay. So this full moon is not aligned exactly with the North nodes, but in your chart it is. So in your chart, your north node in your chart is right on the sun, right on the sun that's transiting right now. And your south node is right on the moon that's transiting right now this evening for the eclipse. So it's basically like you are going through the eclipse in your natal chart, right? The signs have already shifted.
Wow.
Right? So this is big for you. I feel like this revelation that you're feeling, like really lean into it. Like this is a powerful door that you're both closing and walking into. It just so happens that this is happening for you in your 10th house of career and
Mm.
your fourth house of home, just like me. Same
Wow.
thing, except it's reversed. So my north node is in 10th house of career and your north node is in the house of home. So it's kind of reversed. So I'll just say that according to what's happening for you, what's going to support you right now is really tuning into and being diligent about um, your daily habits that keep you on that path,
Mm.
daily rituals, daily habits, whatever you do for productivity, like how you lead your life and your health and wellness is
Mhm.
big for this whole
Mhm.
picture. Okay. There's a lot of energy pointing, not only in Virgo, but the house of Virgo is really asking you to, that's where you're going to find success. So you're going to find a lot of that success in that. And also in continuing to create that solid, grounded foundation that is guided by your values, right? What your highest values are, how you want to operate in this life, how you want to make money, how you want to bring that wealth to you. Creating
Mhm.
that solid foundation is also a huge theme for you with this eclipse. And and also in your 10th house, which I thought was beautiful, and you used a lot of words to talk about that, is you're in a phase in your life where the wealth and the money is going to continue to show up for you because of your discipline,
Mm.
because of the responsibility that you're taking, right? That
Mhm.
maybe in the past you weren't able to because you were clouded by, um, you know, not having the clarity, right? Not really knowing. So, anyways, I wanted to share that with you, give that to you as a little gift today.
Oh,
Um,
I needed that gift. Thank you so much. What a blessing.
You're
Thank you. Thank
so
you.
welcome. You're so welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is it. And just keep paying attention to what shows up, because a lot of people think that we only want to pay it, we only should pay attention to what shows up today on the full moon, on the
Mhm.
eclipse. No, with eclipse energy, like it is, we want to pay attention to the patterns over the next 6 months, but this eclipse cycle is really like 2.5, 3 years. So
Wow. Yeah.
it- big changes coming for you, beautiful changes. So let's hop into your fierce moment, right? Which is what we primarily talk about in this podcast, sharing moments where we show up fiercely for ourselves, which means different things to different people, right? For me, it's when you step into your power, when you do the thing that's really hard, when you do the thing that you didn't want to do because you felt that you were going to disappoint everybody, or people were going to look at you or judge you in a certain way, or you do the thing because you can no longer betray your soul, right? So these are the moments that I'm talking about. What is one of those fierce moments for you that you'd love to share with our audience
Oh
today?
my goodness. Especially the words you just used around I can no longer betray my soul.
Mm,
That the fiercest of fiercest moments that I've had with regard to that is when I stepped into this space of entrepreneurship. And even to this day, I still feel like I'm looking at that version of me and this version of me as if it's a strange beings, because I was in that space that so many people are, of following this path that was paved before us about what success meant as an adult and how to be successful. And I did all of the things in order to be successful, following what I thought I needed to do as a young adult into adulthood, and just felt that sense of hollowness in my being and in my soul that I couldn't ignore past a point. That I could see how there's people that bypass it or stuff it with different things or experiences or material things, but there's this nagging and gnawing at my soul to search for something else. And so being able to step out of a 15-year career for which I was extremely successful and comfortable, to fiercely walk into an unknown space. There's times, honestly, Monique, I sit and I'm like, how am I even doing what I'm doing?
right,
I have no idea that I could point to when I was in the career that I had the paycheck every couple of weeks and the
right.
whatever, like that seemed safe, it seemed predictable, and I can see why
Yes.
people, including myself, clung on to it for so long. But to step into a space of I have to go, like it was such a compelling, you can no longer stay here. I was literally evicted from my previous life.
Wow.
And
Wow.
sent out into the streets, so to speak, of the unknown, and have been cared for and luxuriously living, and not without me feeling fear, and not without me, being and feeling unsure and all the other things. But still, when I think about the level of care and provision after saying I can't stay here to a perfectly fine job, was one of the most fiercest moments I've ever experienced, stepping into the full trust of the universe to care for me in ways I still don't and can't comprehend.
Yeah, it's that trust and surrender,
Yeah.
um, that is so difficult but so necessary in order for any of us to do that, right? I did it as well, similar story. I was in a career for 17 years, and a few mini careers before that, where I had that voice that just no longer, I couldn't ignore it, right? And for
Mhm.
me it was more about, you're here to do spiritual work, um but make it practical, for people in the business world, for um for individuals who could feel into it, and not simply see spirituality as something they couldn't touch and couldn't integrate into their lives. And it led me down a path of learning new things, getting, all these certifications, like I'm sure you did as well, to get myself to a place where I felt I truly had the tools and the experience to be able to support someone before I flew off, the cuckoo's nest, so to speak, and and trusted that a net would fall. And it did. And the net always showed up. And again, not without pain, not without suffering, not without good months, bad months, good years, bad years. And I've and to be here after, I don't know, for me it's been 7 years. For you, it's been 11
I
being on your
started
own.
11 years ago, but I walked away 8 years ago.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
So similar. It's not easy. And it really does take a reworking of the mind, a reworking of our emotional bodies to be able to withstand the work and the stress that shows up, right?
Yeah.
To be able to honor our souls, essentially. And I'm imagining that you also work with a lot of women who have been doing the same thing or are doing it or getting ready to do it. Is that your ideal target
Yeah, I
market?
definitely do. Like, I love working with the energy of the angst of
Yeah.
I can't be here, but I must go someplace else. So yeah, there's two distinct paths that I walk. One of working with primarily women who really want to take that space in order to even settle into the voice of this. It's not this, so there's this. So I love to create in-person immersive experiences through luxury retreats and other events that I've got on deck for the next couple of months into the new year around just community and communing together.
Yeah.
That I feel and I know and I feel a tug at my heart that the world is so super hungry for.
Yeah.
Even pre 2020, just with the devices and social media and the ways in which we do life, one of my missions in life is not only to gather people, but also to gather people for the sake and sense of being able to tap into what is it and who am I? Because there is so much noise, and that noise can easily get us swept up, which is why we see so much anxiety and depression. I once heard this variation of a definition of depression that was saying that when you've moved so far away from your true
Mm.
self, depression sets in. Like you're
Yes.
literally separate from
Yes.
your being. You've been
Yep.
separated. And that makes so much sense because there's so much propaganda
Yeah.
and messaging around what one should be or should look like or should think. And following into that, it becomes this separation between your truest self and your voice that lets you know you're absolutely fine and that your desires are able to be met and they're not foolish and you're not too old. So, yes, I love serving and supporting women in big ways of getting together not only within themselves, but within a community with other women. And then the other subset of people that I work with, just because of my past and where I've come from, is supporting other healers and coaches and guides to be in the world, guiding and coaching and healing actively as well. So I do love to do that. But if I'd say there was a convergence point between all of the people that I serve, it's the space of tapping in to the truth of who you are,
Yes.
to turn on that spark and turn on that light that's flickering a bit. And
Yeah.
it usually shows up in a space of feeling uncomfortable, dissatisfied, frustrated, or that there's a sense that that you've got a calling of a certain level of bigness that you're not leaning into and stepping into and living up to. And stepping into my world and being served by me allows you to turn that light all the way on with the fullness of support and the clarity of what you're supposed to do and taking those first big steps in a way that you probably wouldn't because
Yeah.
of you left up to your own devices, you wouldn't take it.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that, and it um, makes me think of the world we live in today where when we feel that separation, the first thing we want to do is like grab a drink or pop a pill or and and while, I'm not here to say that there aren't ways to soothe that separation until we can get to a place where we kind of know how to bring it within ourselves again, but it's become such a habit,
Yeah.
in our world that then becomes dangerous, and becomes addiction and becomes so many other things, when the simplicity behind it is, let's bring you back to yourself. And I'm curious because there's so many different ways to do that, right? And what's one of the ways that you find, or is one of your favorite ways to kind of help women that you work with kind of bring them back, get them out of that space of disconnection into connection once again?
Take a deep breath with me. That's how. The breath is the most powerful, powerful tool that gets so overlooked. If we cease to breathe, we cease to live.
Yeah,
Once I was in a yoga class and the teacher said, if you're in control of your breath, you're in control of your body. And I love that. That's one tool and modality that is my jam, to help women and every human I serve to get back to a sense of wholeness and of peace. There was a virtual breathwork session I led a couple weeks ago. And one woman at the end of it said, my chest has been so heavy since getting some horrible news 3 weeks ago. And this moment after doing this breath work is the first time I felt this level of lightness in 3 weeks. That is the reminder that you are the medicine, that there isn't. And I'm guilty of it too. Food is my drug. If I feel comfortable, if I'm happy, I eat. If I'm excited, I eat. If I'm sad, anxious, worried, food, 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 food.
yeah,
And so, but as you said, done too much, and it can really create some problems that are already stacking on top of something that could have been solved for by taking a moment and slowing down and breathing. And most of the women that I work with are women like me who are constantly on the go, who
yeah,
are a lot of things to a lot of people. And that can serve as a distraction, not necessarily consciously, but sometimes unconsciously, you're
right.
just going and moving and shaking and not even really deeply breathing or deeply connecting to yourself and to your body and to your breath. So breath work is one tool that I absolutely enjoy,
Yeah,
creating that beat between the rhythm of life and going, so that enter in between that stopping point, you can hear that small still voice that says yes, no, stop,
right. Yeah,
go.
yeah. I've listened to and connected with so many teachers over my life, and of course Deepak is one of them, and he calls it the gap, right? So it's
Yeah.
that gap in between the breath where there's no thought, there's nothing happening. It's literally our souls, and that's where the answer shows up, right? That's where the inner wisdom shows up to be able to get the clarity, right, that you've been talking about. And I love that you shared that. That reminds me of a time in my life, and I just wrote about it recently because I'm doing a 7-day writing challenge, and I'm writing about these little moments in my life of awakening. And this was, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, maybe less. It was at a time in my life where I just had a lot on my heart. Life was difficult, and I was challenged with making a difficult decision. And I went to a retreat, and part of the retreat was energy healing on the body.
Mm.
And this beautiful, beautiful healer came and put her intuitively knew where to go. She put her hands on my heart and started whispering in my ear, breathe into your heart. I want you to breathe into your heart. And I started, I've always done breath work. I've always done yoga all my life. I do it every day. And I could not feel the breath go into my heart. I could feel it, everywhere else, but I could not bring it into my heart. And I was like, this is crazy. I've never realized this, that I haven't been able to bring this energy into my heart. And she must have stayed with me for, I kid you not, about 10 minutes.
Mm.
And she was rubbing this heart center for me, and she kept whispering to me, you could do it, let go, release, you've got this, open your heart. She was just pouring her love into me. And like shackles being broken, I started crying, like heaving, just, releasing whatever was stuck in here.
Yes.
And all of a sudden I could feel the breath in my heart, you
Yes.
know? And I realized that day and started paying more conscious attention because of all the stress that I was under in my life at that time. I was
Wow.
holding my breath all
Yes,
the time.
yes.
And after that opening, I was able to make one of the most fiercest decisions of my life that I couldn't do before that, you know? So, I echo everything you're saying. And, I often love to share like small little tips in this podcast, right? Because sometimes people think that they have to do something huge in order to make a transformation in their life and a powerful shift. But honestly, if you just stop and breathe
That's it.
for a few
That's
minutes
it. Just
every day.
yeah, just even stopping. That like that just slow down and stop everything. That's what one
Yeah,
reason why I love creating and hosting retreats. But I mean,
right.
the name of the word retreat, you're retreating and stepping out and back from your life is super critical because we don't know what we don't know. And if we're moving at such a rate of speed, it's like if you think about when we drive down the road, if you're driving, you miss so many things. Like the other day I was a passenger in the car and I was like, wow, I never even noticed that building there. And it's been there for years. It's just things whir by when we're in motion. I remember one time I went to something that was called Soul Camp. And it was so fun. It was all these series of activities in upstate New York around the soul, and had a very similar experience in which I had to make a fierce decision around my beloved dog at the time.
Mm.
She was very, very sick and already in diapers for a number of months and had doggy Alzheimer's, was just a shell of herself. And I'd never really had an animal before to even make a decision around putting it down or not. I didn't know how it happened or whatever. I'd go to this retreat and they were doing sound healing and it was a whole bunch of people. So it wasn't a small class and we were in this little house. So some people were inside the house, some people were out on the deck just laying out for this sound healing, and they're doing the bowls and the sound healing and I'm there laying there enjoying the breeze, and all of a sudden the sound healer was walking around, which I didn't know, and they she put the bowl right on my stomach. And there's something about that vibration and that openness. And in that moment, I had this visual of my dog coming to me as I
Mm.
was laying down on the ground and said, it's okay. I'm
Oh,
okay. You can let me go now.
oh
Oh
my
my gosh. Oh,
I'm a dog girl. I've got my baby
and
right here, so I feel you.
it wasn't even on my radar. Like I
Oh
wasn't even
my
thinking of what
gosh.
to do. Like I was just caring for her. She had needed diapers. I had the diapers. And she walked up to me and said, it's okay, mama. I can go now. And you can
Oh,
let me go now. And I mean, it still was many months after still,
yeah.
but just a beat, just stop. Like even people listening to this podcast and many other things, and I'm guilty of this too. I love to consume information and learn new things and get like what I think is fortifying my faith and understanding and getting on Abraham Hicks or listening to so
Right.
and so. And it's still noise, even if
Yeah.
it's like the highest consciousness of noise, it's still noise. It still takes you away from what can only be deposited in your heart and your spirit when you just pause,
Yeah.
stop, and take an intentional deep breath.
Oh, I think one of the deeper lessons in that I've realized because um my chart is ruled by Mercury. I have a lot of Gemini rising. I have a lot of mercurial energy. I know that a big part of my purpose in this lifetime is to communicate and to share and to learn. And because of that, I'm a learner in the Gallup strengths world because I'm a Gallup coach as well in the business world. And my number one strength is learning. And I find that I'm over consuming constantly because I love it. But then what it does is it also creates that separation from yourself, right?
Yes,
Where you believe that I have to know so much, I have to keep learning in order to be able to serve, in order to be able to, um, you know, to know what to do next. And no, it's really in the quiet. It's such a difficult thing to do, but once you begin creating that space for yourself, you don't want to go back because you feel so good and so in your power and in your body that you begin to, operate operate differently.
yeah. And where
Um,
do you allow space for your intuition? Where do
yeah,
you allow space for your own wisdom
right.
instead of the wisdom coming from external spaces? that wisdom that emanates from you that you can't even know what you just said or what you just shared because it came from the same wisdom that gave those people and those teachers that you're learning from. That wisdom, you got access to it as well. And it's going to emanate from you completely differently, but we must give ourselves the space to do it. And someone even said, even with music, music wouldn't be music and we couldn't dance if it didn't have a beat, if it
Right.
didn't have a pause in between each beat. It would just be
Right.
this continuous like noise. This is what we
Yes.
do in our life. We have this continuous noise without any rhythm.
Right.
And it has to have the beat for us
Yeah.
to even bob our head or move our hips to
Yeah.
the music. So, yeah.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. So, I obviously can talk about spirituality and all of these modalities forever, but I also like to be very practical because I recognize that we're, earth beings, spiritual beings on earth, and we do also have to just live the mechanical day, in ins and outs of the earth life. And so I'd love for you to share one of the ways that you've noticed in working with so many business women that aside from the breathing and the spiritual side, what's one of the best ways that they can push themselves forward in a practical way? Like, what are you seeing from a practical perspective that women need to do more of to be successful in their businesses, in their chosen careers, and really be connected, and
Mm.
see the growth and success?
I'll tell you a story. I actually was working with one of my clients who was in a space of wanting to move forward and put herself out there to expand and grow her business in ways that she hadn't before because everything was typically coming to her through referrals. And it was at a time where she really needed to start to lean into other means of growing her business. And we did the breath work, of course, and that's where she got that download of exactly how she was to put herself out there, but yet felt so utterly terrified of this new way and wasn't sure how to go about it, didn't want to make any mistakes with it. And one thing that helped her tremendously, now she's doing incredible work, is facing that. Like, we think we need to overstep it or completely disregard that sense of terror or fear or
Mm.
whatever we're feeling. And it's really the ability to disempower that hold that we have on us around moving forward and stepping into our power or stepping into our leadership is actually speaking and sharing and noticing and embracing that part of us, that part of our emotions that we're feeling versus sucking it up or trying to get over it. It's actually walking with that fear. And the other thing I would say is knowing and having a clear vision for what you're
Mm.
wanting to create and wanting to step into. Because if it's vague and it's not specific,
Yeah.
then that's also what can create and exacerbate anxiety. It's having a specific target and a specific desire and a specific knowing of what it even looks like, feels like, who needs to be around you, and taking that space. A lot of us love to move into motion, into action very, very fast. But when we take action without any sense of inspiration or any sense of true knowing, I'm taking action in this specific direction, then
Right.
how will you ever know if you've gotten there? You know, how will
Exactly.
you know if
Yeah.
you've been successful? That's how a lot of people end up being successful by external standards and on paper, but yet there's like something's missing inside of me, or I feel hollow, I feel empty. Well, first of all, what made you even go in that direction? Was it
Right.
because you to? Was it because you thought you wanted to? So having that sense of vision tied to and connected to what are you passionate about? What do you value in this life? What turns you on? What
Yeah.
makes you excited and happy? And when you can anchor yourself into that, knowing very clearly where you're headed, then deal with head first, deal with facing what comes up when you're about to enter into that space. What are you
Yeah.
feeling so that you can actually alchemize that into the fuel to move forward? I feel
Love
like
it.
those are
Love it. So many things. It's like, okay, we need to start with the who to get to the why, and then we need the how, because without the how, that's the practical part. We're not going to have that roadmap. But it also reminds me of I just always go back to consciousness and awareness, and I connect with that so deeply because so many of the individuals that I've worked with over the years, executives in business, we have this idea that we have to be so tough and
Yeah.
so hard, and we just have to, if we feel anything that makes us vulnerable, we got to suck it up, let it go, and we
Mhm.
can't put that mask on of vulnerability. And yet today, I just love seeing so many people talk about vulnerability, sharing their stories of failure or fear, and then we get to talk about what brought them back up,
Yeah.
and those are the stories that keep us going and that make us recognize that we are resilient, and that we do have fears. We're human, and we need to address them, and kind of make them our friends,
Yeah,
and just
absolutely.
understand.
And it normalizes, especially with the women I work with in executive positions and in leadership positions. That facade of toughness creates a separation between
Yeah,
you and those that you're leading. When we
absolutely.
actually can express and be human, not only does it feel so freeing to us who's expressing it and to experiencing it, but to those that we're leading and inspiring and are in charge of, to show and express your humanity, it connects you. And those teams that feel connected and supported, they thrive and they shine. Today I was just dropping my car off to get an oil change, and I was waiting for my Uber. I was talking to a gentleman that's been at this place for years, and he recognized me. He's like, I haven't seen you in a while. I was like, oh, it's been since my last oil change. He's like, well, it feels like forever. This man was so filled with joy and pride about his workplace. And he shared how the owner constantly puts them in trainings, how he asked their opinion about remodeling the lobby that's 40 years old. He's like,
Wow.
yeah, he asked us what we wanted. And now, because I didn't like, we sit low, we look up at our customers, we're going to be eye level. The level, oh, it was the most beautiful experience to experience someone under the leadership,
Yes.
someone
Yeah.
who has vision
Yeah.
and clarity, respect, love, and
Yeah.
humanity.
Yeah.
There
Oh,
is no greater way to coexist, to lead, to be supported, and to support those that are. We all win in that aspect.
we do.
Everything that you're seeking for in your leadership. This is what I teach my clients. Everything you're
Mhm.
seeking for in your leadership is found in the freedom of being completely, unapologetically you.
Yeah. Love it,
Yeah,
girl. Yeah. Okay. So we got to get going because I know you have a commitment and I want to get to it. So, any final words that you want to share with our audience who are thinking about making a fierce decision, who want to experience more flow in their lives, and who may be today, and in the coming weeks, a little bit sensitive. And maybe my t-shirt says love over fear. And I picked it on purpose because this type of eclipse Pisces energy can bring us a lot of fear. But really, what you and I have been talking about is tapping into the energy of love, in our life, in our leadership, in our business, and for ourselves. So, any final words? And then I want you to share how people can connect with you for all of the wonderful work that you're doing.
absolutely. So if you are in the space of a fierce moment calling you and inviting you to join it, congratulations. That is exquisite. It's amazing because the opposite of that is dying. We're either growing or dying. There's no in between. Everything living on this planet, including you, is either growing or dying. And being called into a space of fierceness can feel scary. It can feel nerve wracking. It can riddle you with anxiety, which is also the same thing as excitement. So, my guidance would be to lean into it. Know that you're not alone and don't go through it alone. We weren't
Mm,
meant to be alone. And yet, understand for yourself what yourself needs. Get quiet enough, get still enough to understand for you with a level of confidence and clarity what is for you and
mm,
what isn't for you. And that actually will allow you to flow. It's that the fierceness isn't forced. It's something that you can flow into when you allow what's happening to happen, and to allow yourself to also be supported in the process. So that's what I would say is congratulate yourself, feel proud of yourself for being called into fierceness. Know that you are capable, you are worthy, and you have support. And if you don't have support, then that's something that you can seek to find, because going through something fierce alone is not necessary.
Mm,
And doing and being and experiencing fierceness within community with someone that just can hold you and witness you and see you through it is everything. And it's what we're designed to be for each other. And so, how to find me is I'm on Instagram at Bridgette Simmonds with a D. There's a D in Bridgette and Simmonds. Bridgette, Bridgette, Simmonds, Simmonds. Same thing on LinkedIn as well. So mostly Instagram and LinkedIn, you can find me there. And my
beautiful.
website is Bridgette.co.
Bridgette.co. Awesome. I'll
Yeah.
put all those links in the bio for everybody
Okay.
to have them. And yeah, so I want to end with that. I love that. So a great reflection for this eclipse and whenever you listen to this podcast is what's for me and what isn't. Get quiet, breathe, get grounded, turn off all distractions and just tune into yourself. What is for me and what isn't. And that's going to bring you lots of beautiful clarity. So Bridgette, thank you so much. So
Thank
honored
you
to
so
have you
much, Winnie.
today and to reconnect. And for all of you listeners, thank you for joining us. Have a beautiful day and we'll see you soon on the Fierce and Flowing podcast. Take care.